Cathy.
Yeah, and the reality is that our mining sector has been very hard hit by job losses in the last year, especially.
Yes, it is. Violation of a worker's right is contrary to law. If the strike was protected and procedures exhausted, then dismissal was unfair. So no can challenge the decisions.
Do you think that workers are given full and clear information when they have to embark on strike action?
Yeah, they must get. There is a shock steward at the floor level, so they must have that information before the worker dismiss employers unfairly.
Okay. Najee Altenblom, we'll have to see how the union and if the union can intervene in this matter, and of course, if those dismissals will in any way be reversed, because of course the mining company, if they feel that they've got enough grounds to let go of the workers, then that's exactly what will happen. But when the labor conditions are not conducive, when the environment is not conducive for workers, are they supposed to just sit and take it? Colin, you're out in Cape Town. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. I was just listening to this guy talking about teenage pregnancy now. I wanted to ask you that, wanted to talk on the radio last week about it, but I wasn't called back. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about is China and our president's relationship. I don't know what goes in the minds of our politicians right through Africa. Africa's got 47% of the world's minerals, raw material, raw minerals. Now, they're all going to other countries to come into their countries and extract the minerals, make millions and billions, and the people of Africa are suffering. Now Ramaphosa is talking about more trade with China. This country is flooded with Chinese stuff. Our clothing industry, our leather industry, and even our animals are at the mercy of China. Now they want to come and help us with our infrastructure, our railways, our roads, and things like that. They bring their own engineers, their own workers, their own people, and while they're here, they establish businesses, malls, shopping malls. They take over China, make Chinatowns and things like that. What's going through Ramaphosa's head? We've got millions of people in this country with no work. Can't we do our own roads, maintain? The apartheid government did all that, looked after the railways, looked after the transport, looked after this. We don't need other countries coming into this country and doing work for us when our own people haven't got work. Okay. I don't know what's going on, what's going through that Ramaphosa's head. We are suffering.
Colin?
Yeah.
We're going to have to leave it there. Unfortunately, it's time for the latest news update. Can't engage it any further, but you heard what he had to say.
In our top stories, Mkhunu speaks on concerns over police involvement in crime, and Teachers Union Aptosa welcomes the MOU signed by Khwaghobe and McKinsey. Good morning. The Police Minister Senzo Mkhunu says officers who are involved in crime are a source of serious concern. He was speaking in a meeting of Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee in which the latest crime statistics were discussed. According to the stats, the period April to June this year saw more than 6,000 people murdered. Mkhunu says his department has noted the concerns of members of Parliament that police officers are also involved in crime.
Understand it to be an extreme worry on our side. When a police officer was, when he got killed wearing uniform in KZN a few weeks ago, There was even an addition that he had been at work the whole night, knocked off at 7. By 10, he was already involved in criminality.
Western Cape Police have detained a man in Laingsburg in the Central Karoo for dealing in drugs valued at more than 1 million rand. Police spokesperson Joseph Swartboy says officers received information about a delivery vehicle being used to transport drugs on the N1.
The patients were rewarded when they spotted the truck near Station Road. They approached the truck and ensued with a search of the driver and the truck. Their persistence paid off when they discovered a consignment of drugs hidden in lunch boxes inside the cabin of the truck. They detained the adult male for dealing in drugs. Once charged, the suspect is expected to make a court appearance in the Laingsburg Magistrates Court on the mentioned charge.
The Sports, Arts and Culture Minister, Gayton McKenzie, will this morning launch the 2024 National Heritage Month at the Freedom Park Heritage Site and Museum in Pretoria. This year's theme is celebrating the lives of our heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom. Puseletso Mokoena reports.
The theme puts a spotlight on resistance and liberation heritage route program and a focus on selfless struggle heroes and heroines who sacrificed their lives for liberation. Government, through the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture and its entities, National Heritage Council, South African Heritage Resource Agency, in collaboration with the Department of Military Veterans, will briefly unpack Homecoming and Repatriation Project as the key highlight for Heritage Month. Mackenzie will also outline the overall Heritage Month calendar activities, which among others include the Heritage Day celebration and Indigenous Games Festival.
Teachers Union Aptosa has welcomed the Memorandum of Understanding that Minister Siviwe Kgakgobe for Education and Gayton McKenzie for Sport, Arts and Culture signed yesterday. The aim of the MOU is to restore extracurricular programs in public schools to create equal opportunities for underprivileged learners. Basil Manuel, Aptosa's Executive Director.
We want to see how resourcing is going to happen, because resourcing is extremely important. Just simply equipment. And you know, our public schools have always played team sports first. Your soccer, your rugby, etc., because the resource demand is just a little different to a tennis racket and so on. But resourcing remains important, ensuring that every school can have a sports field, irrespective of size, where children can actually participate. It's not going to be a walk in the park, and we have never thought it would be, but we've got to start somewhere.
And finally, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the international community must pay attention to challenges such as climate change and conflicts in some parts of the world. He was addressing the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in Beijing. Ramaphosa has called on African leaders to work together to build a better continent.
Climate change is causing widespread devastation. The world is falling behind in its efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. The global contestation for critical minerals is fueling geopolitical rivalry. These challenges affect all nations.
Recapping the top story, the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, says officers who are involved in crime are a source of serious concern. He was speaking in a meeting of Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee in which the latest crime stats were discussed. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Welcome to the Talking Point. It's the second hour of the show. We continue leading the conversation. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be looking into Municipal Watch. We'll be focusing on Limpopo in particular because municipalities there are some of those listed as having used over close on 300 million rand on financial consultants in the past auditing year. We'll be asking what exactly is driving the use of consultants, because a lot of the times you have individuals in municipalities that have been hired to do exactly that. We'll be in conversation with the Coxstar MEC in the province. Before we get to it, your WhatsApp voice notes.
Africa, nothing will be right. Since this democracy that is coming in South Africa, everybody do as he or she pleases. Everybody is breaking the law. Nobody is scared of nothing. Everybody's got big mouth. We talk and talk and talk. There is nothing that is happening. You can't even trust the judges, the whole judiciary. You can't trust nothing now. It's a mafia state.
Good morning, Sis Cathy. This is Mbongo Sundi Saparindo. Sis Cathy, please, man. Can the Afro-Forum pursue the charges against these parliamentarians, these leaders, including those of the ANC, Movulamo Kwenyanes and Fikile Mbalula? Can they please pursue those charges for all those people who were like implicated on state capture? Because now it seems as if NPA doesn't want to do anything. Thanks. Bye.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to SAFM listeners. It's Honorable Magwekaya Kubana. Cathy, can you do me a favor? It's been a long time I don't hear Mr. Elias Makasule. The last time I hear him, it was on TikTok. He told us he's jumping like a tennis ball before the election. Can you call him and find out he's still jumping like a tennis ball? Oh, now it's like a flat tire. Danko!
Morning, Cathy and the listeners. This is Magdalene from Bloom. Justice Minister will never perform accordingly on her duties because she's corrupt already. And that will affect the society of South Africa. Crime rate will go high up because people are looking at her as a role model. Secondly, should it happen that she goes to court for justification, you will see that Youth League and Women's League will be supporting her outside the court, singing big songs and saying, hands off our minister, just like they did with Jacob Zuma. You will see. Magdalene from Bloom, thank you.
Good morning, Emmanuel Mdolo in Durban. I think a Minister of Justice actually is being treated unfairly. Of course, because we have politicians who benefited a lot from a VPS scandal. People stole 10 millions and more. To mention the few, Jacob Zuma, Julius Malema, Shivambo, but nothing is happening to them. No, thank you.
Good morning, Sis Cathy. This is South Africa and nothing is going to go well. Remember, Similani is a woman, and then people will come and say, yeah, they are harassing a poor woman and women are very scarce in top jobs. I'm telling you, this happened when this man who falsified the qualifications and bought irregular trains and whatsoever, when things were questioned, they were saying, yeah, they're questioning it because he's a progressive black person revolutionary. So South Africa is not gonna go anywhere because next time is going to be Lebogang Maile, and they'll say no, he's a young person. That's why they are attacking him.
Morning, Cathy. So, Temping Kalimin went to VBS and saying Kalimin Chelete, and there are women who are making it about women. They are rallying behind her. So I just want to know if she is found guilty, will they rally behind the law just the way they rally behind it? Will they go to court and everything to make sure that she pays for what she did? KG in Bryanston.
Good morning, Sis Casey and the listeners of SAFM. This is Gabriel from Bulwan. I think it's the easiest way out for the minister now is just to resign, because now how is she going to be able to sit and respond on questions about the state capture, where else she's also part of the capturing of the VBS? I think it's simple and it doesn't need any ruler where you want to put it in a straight line, that she just need to resign. And the ANC need to act here, because this is where we want to see their authority and their responsibility and their leadership. Because since the GNU, we can see that other ministers from other parties are doing their jobs. But now let's see what the president will do with this issue. Thanks.
Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The Auditor General released her latest report on the state of municipalities in the country. It found that only 34 municipalities obtained clean audits. Now, among the issues raised was the state in which local government has deteriorated in the last administration. Well, among her findings was also the use of consultants in various provinces, but topping the list was the province of Limpopo, where no less than 280 million rand was spent solely on financial consultants. Baiskopo Magamo is the MEC for Cooperative Governance, Human Settlements and Traditional Affairs in Limpopo. He joins us on the line. MEC Magamo, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning, Sis Cathy and the listeners of SAFM, and thanks to have us on this platform now.
A good place for us to begin, MEC, would be perhaps just getting your initial thoughts on the Auditor General's report and what it has revealed about the state of municipalities in your province in particular.
Thanks, Sis Cathy. Let me start by indicating that our province has got about 27 municipalities. And we first have to compare what we achieved the previous financial year and the current financial year, which we are talking about, where it has revealed in the general report for the audit outcomes that out of the municipalities in our province, about 18 municipalities got what we will call unqualified audit opinion, and 8 of those got a qualified opinion, and we have got one municipality in Mudimule Mukopong which got an adverse. The previous year we had 2 municipalities which had clean audit and they regressed, and that is Waterberg District Municipality and Capricorn District Municipality, which is a worry and a concern for us as government, for municipalities to regress from that. But of course we have got some positives that we are seeing as an improvement, but also some negatives, like you are picking out or pointing out the issue of the use of consultants, which I will come to it in detail, and what is it that is a plan of the department or provincial government in supporting municipalities. But I must say that if you look at the 5-year that the 6th administration is coming from, we can be able to confidently say now our municipalities are starting to account and the accountability ecosystem is starting to yield results, because we have seen during the 5 years that mayors or council themselves are generating serious interest in the audit, because we have directed that all mayors should form part of the audit steering committee, meaning whenever the auditors in the municipalities are reporting to the municipal manager on what are their findings, the mayors should be in that meeting. If the documents are not found, the mayors should take responsibility to make sure that supporting documents that are required by auditors in order to verify transactions which are taking place in the municipality, mayors should take responsibility and accountability. And that it's yielding results, because most of the municipalities are starting to improve. But at the same time, we do have municipalities that for almost 6 years in consecutive, they've been getting unqualified audit with some small findings, more especially on supply chain. And we are saying these municipalities are low-hanging fruits that can be able to easily achieve a clean audit, or what you will call unqualified with no findings. And that is where we are working, so that accountability, because once the auditor general says your books are proper, it also helps to build confidence to the community who are receiving services, that will be able to pay for those services and be able to account for. So as a province, we have got mixed feelings on the matter. There are positives that we are taking, but there are also negatives, like the issue of the use of consultants, which you mentioned, and I will talk to it as what is it as the province we are doing together with the Office of the Premier, together with the Provincial Treasurer, to make sure.
Sure. What makes you believe that there is an improvement in the accounting of municipalities and in the accountability of municipalities?
Look, Keith, there are 4 audit outcomes. You might be getting, there is the worst one, which is a disclaimer, where the auditor general say, I can't make head or tail on your books. There is the second one, which is an address, where they say the material misstatements or certain transactions may have, or the financial statements are too much misstated. Therefore, this we can't. Then the better one, or the qualified. And I said, currently, the province has got 8 municipalities which are sitting on qualified. And the majority, or the bulk of the municipalities, 18 of those, are sitting on unqualified audit opinion, which has got matters. It means if I can deal with matters on these municipalities easily, we should be able to move majority of them to unqualified with no matters. And that is your claim. And that will tell that now municipalities are starting to be able to account for each and every rent that gets into the account of the municipality. And that's where we are going. And I think gradually we are going there. The only concern, which I agree with you, is that most of these things we are even using consultants. And that will mean capacity within municipalities are not yet at where we want them. And what needs to be done? Well, we have got a plan as a province to deal with training or building capacity. But also, we are now getting involved in the recruitment of staff, more especially in what we will call BTO, Budget and Treasury Office, or your finance department. Make sure that all those that are appointed are people with the requisite skills, capacity, and qualifications. Hence, as government, we have introduced a grant. It's called Finance Management Grant. This grant is specifically to support municipalities to get interns, qualified young people that can go through training and finally take over and run municipalities. And we do have, in some instances, these people who are products of this intervention of the municipal financial.
MEC, just to put some of this spending into context on consultants. Mohlahlana municipality, which is a municipality that has paid the highest amount in the province for consultants, paid 44 million rand 44 million rand for consultants. It was to prepare their books. It was to help them do their taxes. 44 million rand. Does that sound like it's something that can be justified?
Thanks, Siskis. We don't justify. We don't agree. That's why we have developed what we call the reduction strategy for the use of consultants by our municipalities. We don't justify. But of course, sometimes, Siskis, you have been here, you know, and you have followed how Mohlahlana municipality was being run in the previous administration, where people will just appoint people without the necessary skills. And now that municipality has been sitting on this same for quite some time. And I must agree with you, I don't justify the use of 44 million, including to do the tax returns. Something that an ordinary revenue manager in a municipality can be able to take how much revenue or transactions we have made and how much expenditure we have, then submit to the SARS, and they be able to know whether they will get a refund or they will have owing the SARS. That does not require the use of consultants. It's something that it's an administrative way. A person who has been schooled on finances should be able to do that. Such things we have already started to say, cut here, cut here, cut here. But in some instances, you find that there are no warm bodies to be able to do that. And we're saying, let them put on their budget a recruitment budget that will be able to have people within these portfolios so that they can, even if they use a consultant, they must have what we call a clause in the contract for the skills transfer so that they don't continue to use consultants even if they are home bodies, because these consultants must also
and that brings us to a critical point, doesn't it, Mr. Makamu? Because yes. On the one hand, it speaks to, number one, the inefficiencies in as far as positions are concerned, because you end up with municipalities that have a lot of vacant posts. Added to that is that where there are people, in some instances, they're inadequately qualified to do the job that they have. Both those problems are problems that are created to enable what we are seeing today. So that, because the need has to be created, right? There's no way that you can spend money on consultants if you're employing the right people who have the right skills to do the job. So the need must be created for consultants to be employed and to be brought in the first place.
Look, we have started the process ourselves at the level of the provincial administration, the collaboration between COGSA and Treasury, to assess the capacity of BTOs in the municipalities. We are able to tell now to say this municipality does not have the requisite people with required skills, and we think this should be happening. And we have now gotten involved as the provincial administration. When they are appointing their managers for either expenditure, budget and reporting, revenue, we participate. We even scrutinize their advert and whether to see whether the people they are appointing does meet the minimum requirements of the positions that are required. So that even if you have got the consultant, you can be able to transfer the skills. In some instances, I'm sorry to be giving you this example, you find that a person who is appointed in the Department of Finance or technical, because we have generated interest even on technical, does not have a relevant qualifications to the position. Even if you want to transfer skills, it's practically impossible. Hence, we have now started to work with our municipalities to make sure that we appoint. And with the new staff regulations, I think we are going somewhere this case. And when you look at where we come from and what we have now, definitely you can say there is a light at the end of the tunnel, despite the fact that we have. I'm not trying to justify the 280 million. We are always having it on the agenda whenever we meet MMs and the mayors to say, let's deal with. Whenever I have an opportunity to address the gathering of councillors, I always mention this to say, we are having a strategy and we want them to accommodate and appreciate what we are doing in municipalities to want to help them to go out. But with the outcome, even the AG Setsakane will tell you that where we come from in the province of Limpopo, we might not have the clean audit as expected, but there is a lot of progress that has been made.
Would you say that the use of consultants is also being used as a way to channel funds out of municipalities?
Well, where I am, I may not say such, because I will want to use this example. We will continue to be saying this, and we will just look at the money that has been spent. I want to give an example about Mopani District Municipality. They were using consultants, and we had to go there and try to support them and say, some of these things we need to cut them. They did not refuse to show that maybe it's not necessary to channel the funds outside the municipality. They agreed, and we improved the audit from a disclaimer audit opinion to a qualified audit opinion. So if we can go do that, and I think I can confirm to you, Cathy, already, because the figures we are dealing with here is for the 2022-2023 financial year. During the last financial year, Mohlahlana was our spotlight, and we said we want to see these things reducing so that you can be, because there are some of the things, and I can tell you the areas we are failing more as government to do. The preparation of the PPE, property, plant and equipment. Most municipalities are hiring a consultant to come and do the PPE section of the financial statement. And we're saying, let's build capacity. So with SALGA, we have already started a program to want to take our CFOs to make sure that we train them on how to prepare financial statements. Because some of them, even CAs who are in the municipalities, they now hire consultants to come and prepare financial statements. And one of the duty of the CFO is his responsibility to prepare the annual financial statement of a municipality. How do you appoint somebody who can do that? So first and foremost, the rest is for junior officials. That is sorry. And there are municipalities like Makudu Tamak. They have been preparing their annual financial statement without use of a single set. The internal staff were doing that. The only thing we looked at, why are they not getting a clean audit? Their supply chain is an area that they must focus on. We are doing that analysis and starting to support the municipality, because as provincial government, we're also worried about these consultants.
We're going to continue the conversation in a moment. Baiskopo Makamu is the MEC for Cooperative Governance, Human Settlements and Traditional Affairs in Limpopo. It's the province that used the highest number of consultants. And as you heard, it was to help with preparing basics in as far as the financial statements and books of the municipalities are concerned. It's time for your latest headlines.
Thanks, Cathy. And with the news headlines, good morning. Chinese President Xi Jinping has announced a $50 billion commitment to support his country's plans to contribute to Africa's development. The Eastern Cape Community Safety MEC has commended police for their decisive response to extortion in the province. And Police Minister Senzo Mchunu says officers who are involved in crime are a source of serious concern. Details of these and other stories coming up at 11.
The rand is currently trading at 17 rand 83 to the dollar, 23 rand 44 to the pound, and 19 rand 76 to the euro. Markets in Asia have extended losses at closing bow. The JC mainly lower in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are mixed this hour. Gold is trading at $2,504. Platinum $919 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $73.17 a barrel.
Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
We continue the conversation on the talking point for Municipal Watch. We're looking at the Limpopo province, in particular municipalities in the province and their high use of consultants. Baiskopo Makamu is the Coxter MEC there. So, Mr. Makamu, I think you've explained so well the lack of capacity within municipalities. And when we look at local government, it's not a conversation that we can have in isolation from what we know and what we have come to understand about local government, which is the fact that the administration of local government often suffers due to the political affiliation. So you have positions in local government that are used as sources of patronage and ways of rewarding individuals for their political associations and affiliations. So when you look at what is happening in the province and this lack of capacity that exists within the administration of municipalities, who do you blame for that?
Well, you can just blame for an individual who lacks the understanding for the position that you are given. Suppose I'm given a position like I am as MEC responsible for corporate governance, human settlement. I want to appoint a DDG, for example, for human settlement, and I don't get somebody who does not necessarily have a clue, even at that level, who has got the built environment because we'll be delivering houses. That would be my irresponsibility if I give that position to somebody who I issue a patronage that person should continue to support me. But in the local government, because we are now more than 20 years into local government, government is observing that we have done analysis and we are starting what we'll call professionalization of local government. And where we put stringent requirements when we appoint. When you appoint an MM, of course, you will look for somebody who understands general administration. But specifically now, when you appoint directors, there are specific staff regulations that requires how the advert should look like, what is the experience required in that position. So there is no longer an opportunity to continue doing that. Yes, people can still do at the lower level. As I said, as the provincial administration, we have gone to that level. And you will know, and I use this example when I talk to the mayors, that in a municipality or local government, because there are a lot of politicians, unlike in a department where a politician is only the MEC, you will even no longer want to see properly if it was an egg. You know that the egg, there will be that white portion and the yellow portion. But in the municipality or local government, you will find this, it's now mixed. You will no longer want to separate exactly the yellow part, the white part, because politicians as councillors are made there. Each one of them will want to get his or her hand in the cookie jar. And that is where now we take out and single out municipal managers and municipal mayors to say the MFMA provides the responsibility to confer to you as the mayor. These responsibilities are conferred to the MM. Therefore, let's separate or draw the line between the administration and the political administration of the municipality. And in doing that, we are trying to curb people, getting people to appoint who's do not qualify. So
the reality, MEC, is that the reason why there is no separation is because there is no accountability where the lines have been blurred. In those municipalities, there's no accountability.
But in this case now, when the municipality appoints a CFO, for argument's sake, within 14 days, they must submit a file to the MEC and say, we have appointed Makamu as the CFO of this municipality. Here is a file. Within 14 days, the MEC should be able to tell them, that this person does not qualify, can you go to council even before they appoint that person? That is what the law says now. And we are trying to curb exactly what we have observed as a negative tendency, which you have raised, that people will want to appoint even people who do not have the experience.
And to the extent that that is something that is in place for appointments going forward, what happens for those people who are already in those positions? You yourself in this conversation said earlier that it is so bad in some municipalities that you can't even talk about a skills transfer because you realize that this person just does not have the capacity to grasp what they need to grasp in order to even be in that job. Now, where you have situations like that, what is happening to those people? Because they are hired, they are earning salaries on a month-to-month basis for a job that they can't do. Are they being fired from these municipalities? Are they being taken out of those jobs? What are the steps, the practical steps that have been followed to show that there is accountability?
Well, I may not be sure of the entire municipalities because there are some units which are too general. Everybody can do that. There is what we call a skills audit in the municipality. So we go to the BTO. We say, give all of us, all your staff who are doing the work. You show us that you have got the manager for budget and reporting, but this person has done public management. And this person cannot be able to perform. Even if you appoint a consultant, the skills that are required for this position may require. So this person can be utilized maybe in the corporate services to head administration there. Then when that position gets available, let's have the transfer of staff to the relevant qualifications. Those that can be reskilled, let them be reskilled. But we are saying specifically for technical services, and specifically for finance, we are trying our level best because it's service delivery and accountability in this area. No, there are a number of units there, your community services, with your public management, you can still go and perform certain functions in those posts because they are not specialized. So that's what we are doing and trying to want to curb as part of the strategy, but also to train people within the areas that they must report on.
So if we were to go and stay with an example of the Mohlahlana municipality, because it's a good example, right? Because they paid the most for consultants. In that municipality, what has the process of accountability looked like? Because I imagine that you, as the MEC, have had sight of these numbers before the Auditor General even published her report. So upon seeing what the state of affairs is, what did you do to correct and to also ensure that whatever is happening in that municipality does not lead to even greater expenditure on consultants, as we saw in the previous financial year?
Let me confirm to you and remind you that I'm coming back to this portfolio from the 6th administration. The only municipality that, as provincial government, we once took a decision to place it under Section 1391B was Mohlahlana. When we got in there, in that municipality, I can confirm to you, we could not explain where is the head, where is the tail. We could not even account. There was no even senior managers who will report to the MM. A lot of things which were happening, including how procurement was running in that municipality. I can tell you at one point, there could be contracts which were running for more than 5 years without being renewed. And all those things were complicating or adding up to the wrong way of accounting for the funds there. And we have established a system, and that system is not yet perfect. Hence, we are worried about the use of the consultants, even on ordinary things, like you put it. And I can still repeat it, this case. Look at the issue of the VAT returns of the municipalities. Yourself, you are submitting your own VAT. your SARS through e-filing. Municipalities, they just require just a person who will be able to say, these are all the incomes we made throughout the month, these are all the expenditure we have paid, submit. But people will wait to appoint a consultant, even if it's on a risk basis. A municipality like Mohlahlana, because it's a big municipality with over more than 1 billion budget, then they will be able to use. And if they appoint a service provider, a consultant to do that, likely to make money more than 10% of the income they were supposed to make. And that's what we are also looking at, areas where even if they don't have staff enough because of capacity challenge, because of skills challenge, then we say this we can be able to help you as a provincial government to perform on your own. So we're doing that.
All right, I'm going to bring in some of our listeners. Of course, you can also dial in 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Pasha, you're calling from Limpopo. Good morning.
Morning, Sis Cathy. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Go for it, Pasha.
Yes, you're speaking to my Kalagaja Pasha from Speaking Residents Forum. Sis Cathy, I mean, just listening to the MEC. But first of all, let me say good morning to you, Sis Cathy, and their listeners and MEC, Makamu. But just listening to the MEC, you can really tell that we've got a systematic problem. It's been there for years. I'm glad to hear that he's coming back to this department. So surely he can then attest to the fact that this problem has been there of poor financial management in our municipality for as long as he remembers. For the last 20 years, I would say, that there hasn't been a proper financial management in our municipality. And I'm very disappointed, that the question that you asked me is about him now. What is his turnaround strategy, to address the problem that municipality has been experiencing for the last 20 years, which impact directly on service delivery of our people. And then all he says is to talk about his term now, 5 years. 6 months since he was appointed as an MEC. The problem are far much bigger than that. The MEC knows that this problem has been around for like I said, for almost 20 years. The question is, what has the department been doing throughout these years? Yeah? What have they been doing? It can't be that every MEC who comes in the office will always say, this is my turnaround strategy. He must be able to tell us that since the AG has made findings, what has the department been doing throughout these years? What have they been doing? Because it should be really saying in the last 5 years or in the last 20 years, this is the problem that we have identified. This is what we have addressed it. We have got this number of municipalities that had problems, and therefore we have managed to address 1, 2, 3 municipalities. But that's not what he's talking about. He's telling us about his term now. He's telling us about his 6 months in office. We're not interested in that. This is a departmental issue. Okay, what has the department been doing in the last 20 years?
Although Pasha, I think he did mention that he's come back in this portfolio and that some of the work they were doing in Mohlahlana started in the previous administration, in the 6th administration.
Yes, but I'm saying that it can't be. So let me give an example, in regards to Stukune, for instance. The whole of Stukune, I'm sure the only other time, all of these municipalities in the entire Stukune district municipality, including the district municipality itself and its local municipality, there's only one, if not two, of them who got clean audit throughout maybe the 25 years of this municipal existence. They've never got anything. And there have been MECs before Mr. Magam. Surely they should have identified, put together, put a plan in place and say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to address the problem of municipality.
Okay, I understand you. I understand you better, Pasha. I understand the point that you're making better. Thanks for calling in, Pasha, out in Limpopo. We'll stay in the Limpopo province. Is it lowered? You're in Guyana. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you.
Good, and greetings to the MEC as well. Greetings. Yes, MEC. I've got two quick questions for you. Since the AG keeps on citing some deficiencies in our municipalities, especially in the utilization of consultants who are milking our coffers dry on an annual basis, what are your plans as the political head in the province who is overseeing the administration of all these municipalities to see to it that there has to be a mitigation in terms of the utilization of municipality coffers to pay for the consultants, which amounted to almost 3 million rand for the previous financial year. So that is my basic question. Other than that, I'm listening to everything that is being said by the MEC. So I appreciate the time that you have offered to me, Ms. Cathy. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks for that, Lord. Okay. I think I want to take two more questions for the MEC. Let's take two WhatsApp voice note questions, and then we'll give him a chance to respond to what our listeners are asking.
Good morning, Cathy and SAFM listeners. So why has the MEC come up with a recruitment policy to get qualified people to be in charge of these municipalities only now? He knew in the previous financial year and other financial years that these municipalities were not doing well. So he was waiting for the Auditor General to come and tell him that these municipalities are not managed properly financially. Is that what he is saying? Thanks, Lionel Whitbank.
Good morning again, Sis Cathy. Can you just ask the MEC what would be his reaction of the link between those disclaimers and qualified reports and the money paid to the officials whose results are reflected in that report? I mean, there are people who received monthly payments, possibly even the bonuses at the end of the year. But their results, I mean, the report is there. How is he explaining the relationship between what was paid to the employees who were employed to do that job and the report that is seated in his office?
All right, very good questions there. MEC?
Thanks very much, Casey. I must say that the questions are too much also engaging. Let me start with the one for Pasha in Skukuni. Of course, the facts might not be right, and I think I should be able to provide. I'm not here coming to talk about my only tenure as the MEC just from the previous financial year. And I think I will couple it with the third question from the voice note. It's a lesson learned. You know, when people put MEC Makamu to the position of the MEC for Coxstar, if something does not go right there, the Premier of the province will have a responsibility through the legislation even to intervene, even national government. That's why we have, in terms of the Constitution, Section 154 of the Constitution provides for provincial and national government to support local government. And when we are supporting them, we identify gaps and come with measures that will be able. Part of the issue of intervention by now bringing this stringent staff regulation is mainly because of observing from the previous 20 years, not necessarily during my tenure as the MEC. But it's also not correct. I must clarify something about Skukuni. We have got 4 local municipalities there. Your Makudu Tamaha, your Fitahomutuwate, Elias Mtwalede, and Ephraim Mukhali. Makudu Tamaha is one of the municipalities which the current MM, Seskesi, started as an intern in that municipality, grew through the ranks, and it's one of the municipalities I referred to today, that municipality is preparing their own financial statements internally. They are the municipality which they got unqualified for almost 5 years. Their areas is about, say, supply chain management compliance, which is an area I spoke about that we're building capacity so that they can be able to respond to. So we're building capacity even with people that are there. And let me give you another example. Currently, when you appoint for a person in a supply chain, you will require somebody who has done logistics. Me and you, Sis Cathy, will know that logistic in the university before, they were not there. You will not get a person who is a specialist on supply chain. But now, even universities are responding to the challenges of what we are finding on the ground. And that's what we are doing. And I don't think we are not doing anything, or we are talking only on the years that I've been there. I'm talking about local government, its maturity from the 2000, where we started local government in this democratic dispensation.
All right, MEC, I'm just going to ask you to please try and keep your answers as concise as possible, because we do have other listeners that are holding to ask you questions.
The second one from Loward, what are the plans? We have got a training plan that we are going to take through all the people that will have determined that they are have got the required qualifications within BTOs, train them on supply chain, train them on record management. But also municipalities which have got capacity must have a record management system that will help them without necessarily, in some instances, because some of them, they just lost papers. The last question, like I said, why now? Why we are doing that? It's a lesson learned. We have learned lessons within these 20 years of local government. And we say, with collaborations with other departments, the Special Treasury and Office of the Premier, these are the interventions to close the gaps that are there. So we're trying to do that ourselves.
All right.
Thanks, Ziskis.
I'm going to go to Gift. Gift, you're in the Eastern Cape. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to Comrade Makam. Look, I think, as I listened and also read the audit report, I think the results also confirm that the municipal audit support program for municipalities, I think, to me, it requires a much more rigorous and intense approach. But most disappointing, Cathy, and I'm sure Comrade Makam will agree, is the fact that transferal support has been provided to most poorly performing municipalities in training such as councillor support building program, annual financial statements, your asset management, your revenue management, your revenue enhancement, your debt management, as well as internal audit and municipal public accounts committee workshops. And to me, the accountability ecosystem of local government cases that consists of key stakeholders such as provincial government, municipal public accounts committees, and municipal accounting officers, even CFOs, I think they all need to play an active role to institutionalize key control instruments consistently over time. And failure to achieve this will impact negatively on service delivery. And this will also lead to a trust deficit between citizens and local government. But also on the issue of these consultants, I think there are many municipalities which spend excessive amounts of consultants to collect their financial statement, yet they receive disclaimer from Auditor General. And the question is, how is this possible and why there is no one taken to task on this? But I think, to me, municipal councils must employ competent people and take appropriate steps where officials fail to carry their responsibilities. That's all. Because I will make an example before I go off. In the Eastern Cape, we've got pockets of excellence. I will make one example. Joe Kabi District Municipality has been receiving clean audits for the past 5 to 6 years. Your Sengo local municipality has been receiving clean audits for the past 4 to 5 years. Ngoma local municipality have also been receiving clean audits. And I think we were saying even in the province that some of the municipalities who are poorly performing must take a tune on these 3 municipalities who have been performing very well, receiving clean audits when it comes to municipal audit accounts. Thanks, Cathy.
Yeah, Gift, when it comes to the issue of capacitation, it's clear to me that if you listen to how the MEC has described the skills deficit, it doesn't sound like the kind of problems that can be solved with workshops or short courses. It seems that the problem is far, far bigger than that. And if we go back to the example of is it the Ratlo municipality in the northwest, where they have a municipal manager there who basically who received the worst possible results for his matric, but he's now the chief financial officer of that municipality. And so,
Cathy?
yeah.
Cathy, I can confess to you now that local government is the highly regulated system of governance where you have requirements, clearly defined requirements for Section 56 and Section 57 managers. And I think if municipalities fail to ensure that when they recruit talent, if they don't adhere to these requirements and basic competencies, then the mayor of that municipality must be taken into task, including that council, because it's highly regulated. I mean, it will be unusual and uncalled for that a municipality could hire a chief financial officer who's got only a metric certificate. That is highly impossible. And if that municipality does that, those people who are in charge of that municipality, including the mayor, they must take responsibility for that.
Okay, Gift, let's leave it there. Ninja, you're in KZN. Good morning. Hello, Ninja. All right, looks like we've lost Ninja on the line. I can't hear him. Just double check. Ninja, are you still there? All right, we've lost Ninja on the line. MEC, your response to the reflections by Gift?
Well, Gift is correct. That definitely, as and when we are talking this bad in some instances, there are good practice in other municipalities. And that good practice should be able to be taken to those that are not performing. But he spoke of an important matter of the entire accountability ecosystem. Now, you have in the municipality an impact committee. That is responsible for. We must capacitate them. And I hear you to say some of them is not just to appoint people in the portfolio. They must appoint councillors who have got an understanding of the financial management, who serve in the portfolio of the impact, but also the staff who will do research for the impact should be people who are having proper qualifications. You have your audit committee, you have got council, you have got public participation. All these things should be utilized so that mayors should be held accountable. The issue of having an MM or CFO with a matric certificate, that's what I said, that the lessons learned has brought us to say, now we have got a concurrence that the MEC of local government should do to a particular municipality. When they appoint such a person, the MEC cannot concur. The law does not allow that a CFO to be somebody with a matric. Therefore, I have got the power to go and inform the council and advise the council that this person is not qualified.
All right, we're going to leave it there for today. Baiskopo Makamu, the MEC for Koksta in the Limpopo province.
Unlock a world of benefits. Welcome to SABC's TV License Rewards program. Ready to make your viewing experience more rewarding? Say hello to perks that go beyond just watching TV. Join us today at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and instantly receive your first reward. But wait, there's more. You can get up to 500 Rand back. Become part of something bigger, a movement where watching TV isn't just a hobby. It's a catalyst for positive change. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and open the door to a world of benefits. Plus, every time you tune in, you're making a difference. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference. They will all walk onto the pitch with victory on their minds, but the final whistle will reveal who wants it the most, who will display football brilliance. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. TUT Matsatsantsa Ladies FC versus the University of Fort Hare Ladies FC on Saturday, 7 September at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Top stories at 11. China pledges billions to Africa's development and Ugandan Olympian dies after being set on fire. A very good morning. Chinese President Xi Jinping has announced a $50 billion commitment to support his country's plans to contribute to Africa's development. This is part of a 10-point plan to support and strengthen relations with African countries. China has pledged to support Africa's modernization to help the global south to develop. Beijing will open its markets to 33 countries in Africa, including South Africa. The countries will enjoy zero tariffs on all Chinese products. Addressing the China-Africa Forum through an interpreter, Xi told African leaders that his country would help them deal with the issue of tariffs.
We have decided to give all LDCs having diplomatic relations with China, including 33 countries in Africa, zero tariff treatment for 100% tariff lines. This has made China the first major developing country and the first major economy to take such a step. It will help turn China's big market into Africa's big opportunity.
The Eastern Cape Community Safety MEC has commended the police for their decisive response to extortion in the province. Officers killed alleged extortionist Sakumzi Mareke and 2 suspected accomplices in Mthatha yesterday. Mareke was earlier being referred to as Dalinzolo, a name which he was reported to have been given when he allegedly claimed to be a traditional leader. The 3 started shooting at the police, who retaliated. Provincial Community Safety spokesperson Makaya Komisa.
The provincial government wants to warn criminals to refrain from attacking and blocking police from doing their job or face the music. We hope that this incident will send a strong message to criminals that indeed the time to massage criminals has long gone in the province.
Meanwhile, the community activist Phumla Mataya says that residents can finally breathe a sigh of relief after Mareke's killing.
I am so happy and proud that the law at the end took its control, because people were horrified and terrified. The community was complaining that he's swimming in the same pool with the police. Yesterday, everything was proved that we are still a country that is functioning, that has rules and laws. It is a question of time for karma to deal with its victim.
Police Minister Senzo Mchunu says officers who are involved in crime are a source of serious concern. He was speaking in a meeting of Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee in which the latest crime stats were discussed. According to the stats, the period April to June this year saw more than 6,000 people being murdered. Mchunu says his department has noted the concerns of members of Parliament that police officers are also involved in crime.
I understand it to be an extreme worry on our side. When a police officer was, when he got killed wearing uniform in KZN a few weeks ago, there was even an addition that he had been at work the whole night, knocked off at 7. By 10, he was already involved in criminality.
And Ugandan officials say Olympic athlete Rebecca Cheptegei has died. The death of the 33-year-old marathon runner comes days after her former boyfriend allegedly doused her with petrol and set her on fire. Cheptegei, who competed in Paris, had suffered extensive burns after Sunday's attack. Authorities in northwest Kenya, where Cheptegei lived and trained, said she was targeted after returning home from church. A local administrator has alleged in a report that the athlete and her ex-partner had been wrangling over a piece of land. Police say an investigation is underway. The top story at 11 o'clock, Chinese President Xi Jinping has announced a $50 billion commitment to support his country's plans to contribute to Africa's development. For SAFM News, Cathy Mohlahlana.
Amatag's ladies target all 3 essential points to climb up the ladder, but the ladies from eThekwini plan to demonstrate a sense of urgency to move from the bottom half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Durban Ladies FC on Saturday, 7th September at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Hi, Casey. Good morning. Willie here in Kuma. Good on you, Casey, to have brought MEC for local governance on your program. That's what I've been yearning or looking for or asking for a long time. They must come forth. They mustn't be shy or dodge to come and face the questions from the nation. That's very good of you now, Casey. Thank you.
Says Cathy, ask the MEC about the companies that benefited from those tenders and their relationship with ANC leaders. That's where the answer is. Thank you very much.
Morning, Sis Cathy, and the listeners, CFM listeners. The minister there talks about people who are not performing and, they do not qualify for their positions. He talks about them being transferred to the lower ranks where they should be able to perform. But I hear one thing he's not mentioning is the fact that normally in government, when you do that, you probably go down with your salary. Yes, you're going to a job that is regarded as a lower rank or a low rank, but with your salary. So it's I think that's another problem. I noticed he didn't mention that. Thanks.
Hi, Cathy. I'm just wondering, when it comes to the appointment of executives at municipalities, or any post for that matter, shouldn't there be a national standard that is followed? Therefore, it makes it easy for someone in the Northern Cape to raise a flag when they observe that somebody in KwaZulu-Natal is appointed for a position which does not meet the national set criteria. I'm just wondering, shouldn't that be the case, man? That way, a student who leaves university wanting to become a CFO, for instance, knows exactly what is required of them at any state institution.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Well, according to the World Health Organization at the United Nations, 1 in 10 people fall ill due to contaminated food. In our country, we've also seen a sharp increase in the number of cases of food poisoning. Just earlier this week, the Department of Health in Gauteng announced that there have been 207 cases of food poisoning since February. KwaZulu-Natal and Limpopo also raising concerns in terms of the high number of food poisonings that have been recorded. Mthokozisi Nkosi is the CEO of AS Consultants, Public Health and Food Safety, who joins us on the line. Good morning, Mthokozisi.
Good morning, Sis Cathy. Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you. Good morning to you and the listeners.
Moloko Mihlape is a dietitian and human nutrition lecturer at Sefako Makgato Health Sciences University. Moloko, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on this important topic.
And Prudence Moilwa is head of complaints and investigations at the National Consumer Commission. Prudence, good morning to you.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners. Thank you for having us.
when we look at the issue of food poisonings, it has become such a big concern. More and more now, one has to think very carefully about where they're buying their food from, how that food is packaged, and also what could potentially be in that food that is harmful. Has there been a change, Mthokozisi, in the availability of consumable products and perhaps associated risks that perhaps wasn't there before?
Thank you. Definitely, I do think so. I think with globalization and the extended supply chain, there has been significant risk that we have seen because you'll think, look at the salad that you are eating, you may not be sure where everything is coming from. So with globalization and also the growing population, the new discoveries, and also the lack of control for some of the shops found in townships and in other peri-urban areas, I would say that the risk profile has significantly increased over the years. But also the consumers, I think, are becoming more aware of what constitute food poisoning. I think there is some form of awareness that is where people really do try to determine what actually is making this person sick. Instead of making assumption, they now can tell that perhaps it's a food that we have bought from this particular shop, for example.
Moloko, your view? Hello, Moloko. Just double check that you're not muted there.
Okay, thank you. So any food establishment or any establishment that deals with foods need to abide to specific hygiene and safety standards, which is not practiced in the spaza shop market. So, but I like what the Limpopo Department of Economic Development has done currently. They came up with a law that requires all the spaza shops to be registered with the department under business regulations. So they will be monitoring all the spaza shop around the province. So on top of verifying the documents of the owners, they will be checking the quality of the products that they are being sold. I hope the other provinces will come up with the same measure to make sure that our consumers are protected.
And that is a very good intervention. Prudence, let me come to you. And the example of spaza shops is a good example because some of the food poisoning incidents that we've had reported that have made national headlines have emanated from food that was bought at spaza shops. Now, before, one would have the impression that if you're buying a consumable product and it hasn't been packaged, then you should question its safety. So if you're buying street food, if you must buy street food from an area that you know and you trust, right? But there's always been this perception that if a good is packaged, then it must be safe. However, that is not necessarily the case, Prudence. Okay, Prudence, just make sure that you're not muted as well. Apologies, our guests are joining us via Zoom, so yeah, that's why you might have some of those challenges. Yeah. Yes, Prudence, go for it.
No, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think it's very important to just frame the discussion, just in terms of the legal framework, especially from the law that we implement as the Consumer Commission. The Consumer Protection Act came into effect in 2011, and with it promises consumers the protection of rights. Consumers have the right to good quality products that are sold in the market, and those products must be safe for consumption. Now, that's the first thing in terms of what the Consumer Protection Act provides for. Now, it also then poses an indictment on the manufacturers and the retailers of food to make sure that the food that they sell in the market are safe for consumption, and also to make sure that they are of good quality. Now, and I think the observation is actually quite correct. I think over a number of years, we have observed what seems like an escalation in cases of food poisoning, as well as the low quality of food products that are sold. And that is why, as the National Office of Consumer Protection, we then started a program. I think we started it last year in bits and pieces, but then this year, the National Consumer Commission started a drive of conducting inspection of all facilities that sell food products. And you would be appalled to look at the quality of food that is sold in the markets. The Commission has already started taking action against some of the suppliers who sell this type of food. And as you correctly indicate, the reason for the packaging of this food is to actually make sure that this food is properly labeled. And also there are labeling requirements in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, so that people must know what they're eating. Together with those labeling requirements, or within the labeling requirements actually, is the requirement that is linked to the regulations of the Department of Health that also talks about what we ordinarily refer to as the date markings, or the indication of when the food is good to eat, or the best before dates, and what we loosely refer to as the expiry dates on the food. And I think that by and large is meant to give consumers some form of comfort when they buy the food, to know that the food has not expired, the food is not poisonous, and so on and so forth. But now, what then happens in the markets is that retailers are continuing to sell food that has expired, food that is of very, very low quality. And I'm sure some of the experts that are on this panel will touch on, some of the risks that are associated with food that is sold that does not necessarily is of best quality, and the risks that are involved there too. So these are some of the things that we as the Commission want to communicate today to consumers, to say, please check your labeling and avoid buying foods that are not labeled, so that you know exactly what it is that consumers are eating. And also, I believe that it is a misnomer to blame all the activities on the spaza shops. Because some of the risks that we've identified as the National Consumer Commission are actually posed by your mainstream shops that literally have a national footprint at times. And I'll talk some more about the program that we have in terms of the Consumer Commission and the Consumer Protection Act of product safety recalls that also have indicated that there are risks associated to properly packaged foods that are in the markets where there was a product failure that is then picked up after in production, where suppliers have an obligation to tell us if they pick up that there are unsafe products in the markets. So yeah, I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Prudence, you're raising such a good point, because as consumers, and I know I'm generalizing very broadly here, but if there's a store that is in front of, if there's a small spaza shop that is in front of a big retailer selling similar products, we're more likely to go into the bigger known name retailer, because we believe that its quality of products is more trustworthy than what is being sold next door. So the warning that you're giving us as consumers is to say, we have to keep our eyes open regardless of where we're buying products from.
Yes. And my straight answer would be yes. As you may be aware, we are now on the brink of releasing the peanut butter report. As you may be aware, the Commission did a national assessment on the quality of peanut butter after we picked up that almost all the mainstream shops were selling products that were affected by the aflatoxin. And we did a national assessment. Though I can't speak to the outcomes now, we can safely say that all the products that were affected have been removed from the markets. But these products or this peanut butter that were affected were actually unsafe for consumption. But they were sold in the mainstream shops by the big retailers. So, and the emphasis on that is that is the reason why consumers have to be vigilant in the use of the product, not only the purchase of the product, but the use of the product. If you, for example, buy a known brand that you usually buy, and you pick up that there is a difference in the color, that then you need to raise it with the supplier or the retailer, and maybe follow up on then what happens, because also as the Commission, we depend on the intelligence on the ground from our consumers, so to speak, so that they inform the consumers in terms of any incident that happens that may affect the bigger supply of products in the markets.
Mthokozisi, let me come back to you and perhaps give you an opportunity then to talk about this trust around products and what the level of awareness that we as customers should have, but also the responsibility that some of the policymakers have in regulating the space.
Thank you, Mrs. Cathy. So from my experience, most of the mainstream retailers and manufacturers, they do actually have systems in place to ensure that the food that they manufacture, that they produce, is safe for human consumption. And it's one of those things that they are able to either trigger withdrawals, which would be generally the product that has not really reached the consumers, and also trigger recalls. So the system that they've put in place allows them to do so. My biggest concern is the things that we are not aware of, because generally, if you look at the risk profile or the food safety incidents that we have had, they would be able to investigate and find out what actually happened, what is the issue, and even go to an extent to find the source of the problem. Because if you look at the complexity of the food supply chain, food has an inherent risk. And as we are producing more food, meaning that we have got a bigger population to feed, we have got more ingredients that we have got to add to food to ensure that we prolong the shelf life of food, there would be risks that will come from that. And the responsibility of then the manufacturers, and also more so the manufacturers, would be to ensure that before the product leaves the facility, all the checks have been done. But it could happen that some of the tests are done, because we do, in the industry, we do sampling. We will not be able to test every single product. Then they'll realize that actually there is something that is unsafe in this product, and that's where a recall will be triggered, and you'll be able to tell that as a manufacturer, maybe let's say of peanuts, this is where I've supplied my product to, or peanut butter I packed for this retailer, that retailer, and that, and I would be able to inform them and ask for the product to be brought back. So from my experience, I am worried about the formal industry, the main manufacturers and the main retailers, but the system that they have at this point, at least they do have a system that could be further improved, and perhaps more enforcement to ensure that this is done properly. And perhaps less reactive measures, as we have seen with the listeriosis crisis. We had a series of regulations that came about, but they were more reactive. They were not looking at the entire food industry as a whole, looking at the inherent risk that each food category carries. And the reaction thereof of regulators would normally be reactive, not necessarily proactive, looking at this industry. My issue is, I think where I am concerned is, what is it that we are not seeing? If you look at the incidents that we have, if you go to some of the shops, some of the retailers, and I'm saying this because of the privilege of working with these retailers and having been in this space for long. If you ask, where did you get this product? They would immediately tell you, this is where the manufacturer, where is it that this product is coming from? My concern with even the former retailers that are in the township particularly, and I will tell you why I'm focusing more in the township. I feel that it doesn't matter which retailer it is. For some reason, the focus on making sure that the food is safe in our poorer communities is not as stringent as in urban areas or well-off areas. And it doesn't matter which retailer it is. You go there, you see the difference instantly, that I would never find this in Sandton, but definitely if I go to Alexandria, the same product, the quality of the product is not the same. And that could also be linked to the enforcement of the current existing regulation. Prudence made a mention of the regulation relating to labeling, Regulation R146. No one actually bothers to see if that is properly enforced in the townships. And we are, because of the perception that the food there or the product that we source there are cheaper, hardly do you ever find somebody complaining and asking, I once complained at this other point, and everyone looks at me weirdly. Why are you complaining that there is no expiry date on this product? Why are you complaining that it's not labeled? And we also need, as we reside in the township, to have confidence and pride to say, I am paying for this, I deserve a good product, because we are the most affected by this, in my opinion, because no one really seems to remember that actually I may not be in a well-off area, but I do pay for this. It is a product. And also I've seen the spread of foods that you don't know where they're coming from. You look at the manufacturer, it says that it's coming from another country, or you cannot tell where it is that it is coming from. And generally you'll find such product in informal shops, and you ask the person who's selling the product, but where do you get this product? Where is it coming from? They tell you, either you buy it or you leave it. You complain, you see that the product is actually doesn't look the same as what you normally have. The response will be, buy it or leave it. I'm selling it for you for cheaper. And I think personally is the enforcement of the current regulations, so that it doesn't matter where you are. As a shop owner, as a manufacturer, you fear that if something were to go wrong, I will be in trouble. For example, there is a regulation called Regulation R638 of 2018, which was published after the listeriosis crisis that we had. One of the fundamental requirements of those regulations is that the person in charge of those food premises must receive accredited food safety training, so that they know the risk that the product that they are selling to consumers, what the risks are. You'll find that in those shops, and that is before you can be issued with a legal document to say, I am legally allowed as a food business to trade. So we call it a certificate of acceptability. You go to these informal shops, you go to these other the manufacturers in the outskirts, you find that they don't even know that they're supposed to have that. Okay. And then you ask yourself, if you don't have this certificate in the first place, how are you ensuring that the food that you're supplying is safe?
Mtokozisi, we're going to have to pause things there. We'll continue with this conversation in a moment. We're looking at the quality of foods, and in particular, the issue of food poisoning, empowering ourselves as consumers with the information we need to have so that the food we're buying is actually safe. It's 11:30, time for your latest news headlines.
A very good morning. With the news headlines, the Human Rights Commission is investigating several cases of alleged murder and assault in the farms in Limpopo. Chinese President Xi Jinping has announced a $50 billion commitment to support his country's plans to contribute to Africa's development, and the U.S. has imposed sanctions on two top editors of the Russian state-funded broadcaster RT. I'll be back with a full news update at midday.
Summer Tugs ladies target all 3 essential points to climb up the ladder, but the ladies from eThekwini plan to demonstrate a sense of urgency to move from the bottom half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Durban Ladies FC on Saturday, 7th September at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
It is alleged that the Libyans have been in the base since April.
So how long have police intelligence been aware of this facility?
To be frank with you, at this moment, it's something that also during the visit by the minister it was indicated that cannot share much on the things besides the information that was received by the intelligence structure. There were other information from members of the community.
Wow, a security camp used for military training. Why are foreign nationals being trained in security or guerrilla warfare or whatever it is in South Africa? If South Africans were in another country being trained for those purposes, my word, they would be regarded as terrorists, it would be treason, they'd probably be locked up by those countries and everything.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m.
Tune in to catch the rebirth of Muvango's new season on SABC2 every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. and experience the drama and excitement with new intriguing characters like Dr. Nonhlanhla Shimba, played by Lily Dikumalo, and of course your usual faves Aswindini, Rendani, Deboho, and yes, of course, Khosi. It's a renaissance of new beginnings, love, secrets, and betrayal. Remember, that's every Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. on SABC2.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on The Talking Point. We're looking at food poisoning and how we can better protect ourselves as consumers. What do we need to be more aware of, more mindful of? Mthokosi Zinkosi, CEO of AS Consultants, Public Health and Food Safety. Moloko Mitlape is a dietitian and human nutrition lecturer at Sefako Makgato Health Sciences University. And of course, Prudence Moilwa is the head of complaints and investigations at the National Consumer Commission. So before we went to the news headlines, you heard Mthokosi there giving us quite a detailed breakdown of what it is that regulators can be doing so that we're not always reacting to cases of food poisonings, but how do we prevent it from getting there in the first place? How do you prevent the goods that are not safe for consumption from being available on store shelves in the first place? Moloko, one of the things that we also often see happening is that young children have become vulnerable and susceptible to harmful foods. And the way in which young people die as a result of consuming this food is it's heartbreaking, and you see the families and what it is that they have to go, what it is that they go through rather when this has happened. What is it that as parents, as guardians, we need to be doing, and the conversations and information we need to be sharing with young children to better protect them?
Okay, thank you so much. I think we also need to, in the same breath of advising parents to buy from reputable suppliers, reading food labels, and also forcing these establishments to abide to food safety and hygiene standards, we need to also be mindful that the contamination of food can occur at any stage of production. So it can be during the processing, during the distribution, during the preparation as well. So when we are doing campaigns, we need to make sure that we are also teaching the parents on proper handling of food, proper hand washing, sanitation of utensils and surfaces, to teach them how to proper store food, separating raw food from the cooked ones, and also teaching them on how to properly store food at the right temperature. So that can be one of the campaigns, as we are telling them to read food labels and everything. So we must also have campaigns on how to properly handle food. And then the other thing we can make parents aware of is the symptoms when a child is sick, when a child is coming back from school and they are not feeling well. We look out for those gastrointestinal problems. Don't just say my child is having nausea. It's a very important and alarming health risk. If your child is vomiting, they're having diarrhea, it means they are losing a lot of water and important salts in their body. So go to the clinic, go to your nearest healthcare provider to get assistance. Let's not wait until when it's too late to get them help. When your child is coming back from school, they are experiencing any GIT symptoms, we need to act promptly. And some of the symptoms that can happen might not be gastrointestinal related. Your child is weak, they're having fever. Let's make sure that we get them immediate medical attention. And then the other problem is the issue with this food that we're getting from unregulated establishments. We worry about the nutritional value. So in South Africa currently we have a burden of malnutrition. So if we are getting food that is of poor quality, it's adding to that burden of malnutrition. So we need to teach them on how to read like your food labels as well. Also to check out for things like potential allergens in food and the nutrition information that is provided. So I understand that the previous speakers mentioned that in this unregulated market, we do have food products that do not have proper labeling. So that should be a red flag to parents when they are buying food and they are not labeled properly. They are not mentioning if there are any potential allergens in those food items. When we are packaging food, we need to specify if there are any potential allergens, of which most children suffer from as well. So your nuts need to be declared on the label, your milk, all the potential protein allergens need to be specified on the labels. So those are the things that the parents can look out for.
As you talk about making sure that we read the food labels and that food has been labeled properly, how does one know whether food has been labeled properly? Because I think there has been extensive research done that very few consumers actually read food labels. So it's something that we're not really paying attention to. And that's why you even have a campaign now, for there to be alternative ways in which producers label their food so that you don't always have to go to the back, that as you see a food product on your shelf, you should be able to see how much sugar, how much salt is in that food just from seeing the front of the package.
Yes, correct. So it's very important to look out for the ingredients list. So normally on food items, the ingredients are listed in a descending order. So if the food it contains mostly milk protein, that should be the first ingredient that appears on that list. So they need to check out for that. And they also need to look at the nutrition information. How much energy does this food item have? How much protein? We have macro and micronutrients. So macronutrients will be your carbohydrates, your protein, your fat, and then we also have micronutrients. They can mention that the food has this much sodium. So we need to look out for such. And then also the health claims on the food items, high in fiber, low in sodium, and so on. So we need to be looking out for food items that are lower in salt, lower in sugar, high in fiber, and low and energy controlled as well. So of course we do have false claims on most food products, which is something that needs to be regulated as well.
Muluko, it's not very encouraging, right? You say we must look out for this, and then you say, but we do have a lot of false claims by manufacturers. So it's like, okay, so I guess it's useful to do it, but this is prudence where you come in, because we as consumers in this instance we are somewhat powerless because we're not involved in the manufacturing process. We're not involved in the back end. We receive, complete products. So what power do we as consumers then have?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And I hope food producers are listening to this, because we do pick up that incidents of product failures are not acted upon as quickly as possible. Where sometimes we've had to investigate some of the big brands. Some of the investigations are actually still going on now, where we picked up that some of the brands, when they pick up that there is a product failure or they have already sold something that is perhaps might be unsafe or of low quality, they would then inform the commission after maybe a couple of months, so to speak. And they sometimes blame this on having ran more tests. And I think this is something that, that our experts on the panel can talk to with regard to that. Because the law says once you pick up that you've sold an unsafe product, you have the responsibility to stop production, stop distribution, and ensure that you quarantine what you have sold and inform the National Consumer Commission. The purpose of that is that we then need to monitor the recall itself to see whether you followed the correct steps in order to ensure consumer safety. So we urge the manufacturers of food not to put the bottom line ahead of people's lives. We want to emphasize this because we also see even big brands do this, where in the name of running further tests, they then extend or prolong the sale of products that they have on the balance of probabilities, an indication that they may be unsafe and they are sold to consumers. And they will be investigated, and we intend to take those suppliers to the National Consumer Tribunal, and even, where possible, also refer them to the police, because they are putting people's lives in danger. And the processes that Mthokozisi has referred to gives a level of comfort, and correctly so. Everybody who sells food has to have a certificate of acceptability in terms of the health regulation. But we are also finding out that, and I know this does not necessarily give a lot of comfort, where we are picking up during our inspections that there are certain certificates of acceptability, COAs, that have been forged. So the program that the National Consumer Commission has started now with our we've started a program of national inspections. We've so far covered about 5 provinces, wherein the intention is to actually go from shop to shop to ensure that safe products are being sold, and that the ones that are problematic or do not comply with the law are removed from the market. We work with the environmental health practitioners in order to make sure that so we work with provincial consumer protection officials, we work with the police, we work with sometimes with Home Affairs, and then we work with the environmental health practitioners.
All right.
Even though we cannot cover all the stores in the provinces, we hope that what we're doing, this rollout of the program, will then start the process of the municipalities starting to empower the environmental.
All right, Prudence, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there with the conversation for today. You heard there the voices of Prudence Mohlahlana, Head of Compliance and Investigations at the National Consumer Commission, Moloko Mehlape, Dietitian and Human Nutrition Lecturer at Sefako Makgato Health Sciences University, and Mthokozisi Nkosi, CEO of AS Consultants, Public Health and Food Safety. Well, that brings us to the end of our show on The Talking Point today. Up next is the book reading. We, of course, are back with you tomorrow between 9 and midday. Trust me, you don't want to miss the show tomorrow, especially the Friday wind down. Just take my word for it. Trust me on this one. I will not lead you astray. You don't want to miss the show tomorrow. Okay, that's it from me. Have a lovely afternoon.
The book reading. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SAFM presents another episode of A Life of Purpose, written by Luvuyo Wochela and Lumkile Wiseman Kuhlu. The reader is Lerato Velase.
Ironically, Robben Island did not intimidate Wiseman and his colleagues. It fascinated them, and they were intensely interested in its inmates. During the previous year, at the height of many political arrests, they had heard about this island being used as an internment center for many political prisoners. They had heard that Robert Sebukwe was housed there and were eager to meet him, not knowing that he was in isolation and restricted from linking up with other prisoners. Before his own arrest, Wiseman had heard and read about some PAC leaders who had been sent to this iniquitous island. Amongst many, there were Clarence Makwetu of the Transkei, Zafania Motopeng, Joe Seramani of the Transvaal, and Reverend Stanley Mokhoba. These individuals were all sentenced to the island after the clampdown on the PAC and Boko from April 1963. At the beginning of 1966, they were joined by John Nyati Pox Bokela of Heschel, who was also one of the founders of the PAC during the 1950s. Manual labor was compulsory. Prisoners worked in the lime quarries, the infamous worksite documented by Nelson Mandela in his autobiography. Their work was characterized by appalling experiences, particularly the abrasive manner in which the prison guards supervised them. Their supervision of prisoners' movements from their respective cells to lime quarries were characterized by many undesirable incidents. Nevertheless, prisoners supported each other. Their militancy and the ongoing political education drew them together.
The fulfilling part was what was happening in the evenings and also during the day. As a youngster, you had the privilege of sometimes working in the group with one of your leaders. During the day, you are asking those critical questions and you get educated. Then in the evening, you are assigned a task. Possibly, if they see that you are promising, they would say, go to another cell. We want you to talk to people there. It is your job. It was a great thing.
Wiseman's experiences at Fort Glamorgan were very different to those he soon became exposed to on Robben Island. Political education in the evenings was administered by a bigger group of leaders than in Fort Glamorgan. That regular political education and their unremitting discussions on the African state of affairs rekindled his broader vision of challenges facing the continent. His induction into African decolonization had started in Lovedale, and he frequently and intensely discussed the problems confronting Africa while in Fort Glamorgan. But on Robben Island, he became even more inspired to think broadly about African issues. The ongoing decolonization in parts of Africa, the rhetoric of Nkrumah about a united Africa, and the formation of the OAU at Addis Ababa excited him, and he visualized himself as part of these unfolding processes. During his incarceration, he developed a recurring dream of becoming the economic advisor to the OAU. In 1964, He had just turned 20, and his thinking on Africa was focusing on developmental aspects, on technological challenges, and on the plethora of social dilemmas confronting the continent. Out of this thinking, his vision evolved, and it had to do with his desire to be at the forefront of tackling the problems of the African continent.
You see, 1963 was the year of the formation of the Organization of the African Unity. And as a young guy who had not even got matric, I was already seeing myself as the chief economist. I was saying, when I get out of this place, I will study and become a top economist. I will go to Addis Ababa and become the chief economist to deal with poverty and make sure that this continent succeeds. Because now I had the strong belief that Africans, given opportunities, are equal to any other human beings in the world.
Although he had resigned himself to serving out his time, Wiseman still believed that there was an impending widespread revolution in South Africa, which would benefit from the recently liberated African countries. His group had taken note of Nkrumah's consistent talks of a united Africa, and they regarded the formation of the OAU as an appropriate step in that direction. At home, the ongoing Rivonia trial had caused a media frenzy. As Wiseman and his fellow prisoners continued to discuss these happenings within the corridors of Robben Island, they also made the mistake of thinking that political prisoners would soon be freed. That conviction stemmed from the exuberance of youth and, more importantly, from the intense political education permeating the prison cells. Wiseman started up friendships with others outside the group with whom he had come from Fort Glamorgan. One of these individuals, who by chance shared a common background with them, was Winston Jongonkulu Ndungane, a University of Cape Town student who was arrested for having participated in the anti-pass law demonstrations and who had to serve most of his 3-year sentence on Robben Island. He had also completed matric at Lovedale in 1959 and was interested in the Lovedale Group, as Wiseman and his colleagues were referred to when they first arrived on Robben Island. Jongonkulu was immediately impressed by the young Wiseman's awareness of South African politics and his enthusiasm for continental issues. He was compassionate and appreciative of Wiseman's sacrifice, more so since it appeared to him and many others that he was arrested and sentenced for no compelling reason. What inspired Jongonkulu most was Wiseman's age, which seemed to belie his mature demeanor, sense of pride in his fellow Africans, and willingness to learn more. For Jongonkulu, the mere fact that young men such as Wiseman could sacrifice their lives for the sake of their country was a clear indication of the evil of the apartheid system. Likewise, Wiseman immediately felt he had a mentor and an elder brother in Jongonkulu. He believed that he could relate to Jongonkulu in terms of his education and felt comfortable confiding in him. On many points, Wiseman felt comfortable seeking Jongonkulu's insight before making his own decisions. The camaraderie between the two on Robben Island reflected what Kane had defined as significant friendships cultivated in apartheid prisons. After nearly a year since their sentencing, Wiseman and his colleagues finally heard that the appeal was being heard. But the official proceedings did not directly engage the concerned group, and when the verdict was finally reached, it was poorly conveyed to those affected by the prior sentence. In the end, the appeal resulted in some of the Lovedale group, mainly those whose appeal was supported by the Anglican and Roman Catholic churches, being released from Robben Island in June 1964. But the method adopted by the government in phasing out the release of the group was not clearly explained, and not unexpectedly, it triggered anxiety in those who remained behind. As Wiseman said,
"We were wondering now what was going to happen to the few of us."
Wiseman's discharge would arrive some 3 months later. Once more, his resolve was tested, as he had to carry on with the normal routines on Robben Island. The early morning schedule of cold showers, bed making and ration breakfasts before the trips to and from the quarries remained unchanged. There was some consolation in that his Tala homeboys, Batini Gwampi and Kayagude Maham, remained with him, and he was relieved that the appeal was finally being attended to. Overall, the prison sentence had not broken him down, though he continued looking forward to his release.
While we continued to work in the quarries and in all sorts of other manual labor activities, the life in the community of prisoners, being now thousands, was very different. You felt you belonged to a winning group.
Early in July 1964, Wiseman and the remaining members of his Lovedale group were once more abruptly moved, this time to the Victor Vesta prison, a low-security farm prison between Paarl and Franschhoek in the valley of the Dwars River. They were sad to leave behind their leaders and friends, especially the Kentane group under Toboti, with whom they had by then developed a strong bond. By now, apartheid government officials were making room on Robben Island, anticipating the arrival of the recently sentenced Rivonia trialists, who included Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Ahmed Kathrada, Govan Mbeki, Raymond Mhlaba, Elias Motsoaledi, and Andrew Mlangeni. In an emotional statement by one of the great leaders of the ANC, Chief Albert Luthuli, to the United Nations Security Council in 1964, he reiterated that these convicted members had, in the face of the most bitter racial persecution, resolutely set themselves against racialism. Luthuli restated further how the government had closed all avenues of resistance, making the ANC and other organizations illegal, jailing their leaders, exiling and forcing others to operate underground. Meanwhile, amid the blustery cold and wet Cape Town winter, Wiseman and the remainder of the Lovedale group were joined at Victor Vesta by other Robben Island prisoners who had received shorter sentences of 4 to 5 years. Njongonkulu Ndungane was part of the group, and his relocation to Victor Vesta also continued to cement his growing friendship with Wiseman. They were now surrounded by ordinary criminals, and the customary routines of Robben Island, which were dominated by political education, were no more. But that mattered little, since in August they were informed of their impending release. As it turned out, the churches had driven the appeal campaign for the entire Lovedale group behind the scenes, helping those like Wiseman whose parents could not afford the appeal funds.
That was another episode of A Life of Purpose, second edition, written by Luvuyo Wochela and Lumkile Wiseman Kuhlu. The book is available online on www.kmmr.co.za, KMMR Publishers, and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursday on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Lerato Mvelase, technical production Wiseman Manqele and Nanda Khoza.
It's 12 o'clock on Thursday, the 5th of September 2024. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SAFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour,
the occupants of the two vehicles asked some question as to why they are being harassed. An argument ensued and there was a shootout.
Police are yet to identify the two people killed alongside suspected Mthatha extortionist Daninzolo Makeke.
We see many recipients of social grants. On the day that they receive social grants, they are queuing at sports betting sites.
And Parliament has heard how gambling is affecting some social grant recipients. Coming up in sport,
Springboks and the All Blacks name their side for Saturday's test in Cape Town and bring you the latest from the Paralympic Games, and it's women's semi-finals day at the US Open.
Looking forward to it with John Chirica later in the show. Please share your views with us as well. Our SMS line number 41391, charged at R1.50 per message. You can also write to us via X or Facebook at SABC News _radio or using the hashtag Updated Noon. Alternatively, you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 08269239909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Thursday edition of Updated Noon. First, though, here's the latest news with Modupi Mohlahlana.
Thank you very much, Sakina. The top stories this hour: the HRC to probe farm murders in Limpopo, and China pledges billions to Africa's development. A very good afternoon. The Human Rights Commission is investigating several cases of alleged murder and assault on the farms in Limpopo. These include the recent incident where 2 women were allegedly shot and killed at a pig farm outside Polokwane. The Commission's Victor Mavidula says cases are being investigated in areas such as Groblersdal and Tzaneen.
If the Human Rights Commission were concerned about these cases, you will remember that we had a case not long ago in Groblersdal. The same situation, the farm owner setting dogs to the farm worker. We also had another case in Groblersdal again, where a white man was assaulting a young boy. I mean, in a manner that you will understand, you won't even believe that somebody can do such a thing. Then we also have cases where in Tzaneen you may be aware of the case where a very young child in the social media used the keyword.
The Limpopo Health Department says it is investigating the source of a bilharzia outbreak in the province. Last week, 142 learners from Malwandla Primary in Tzaneen received medical treatment after displaying bilharzia-related symptoms. Bilharzia is a disease caused by parasitic flatworms which affects the urinary tract and intestines. Department spokesperson Neil Shikwambana says they are working with the Water Services Authority to test water sources in the area.
The first test that was done by the service authority was the school board, because that was the common denominator for the kids. But now that we've got kids from other villages and other areas, we then have to look at all these aspects. We're happy because the specimen at the river that we're speaking about have been taken, waiting for results. We have also actually requested them to look at other rivers in the nearby areas, because it looks like we've got an outbreak on our hands.
4 men have started to serve 24 years in jail each after being sentenced in a court in Parow, Cape Town yesterday. The Khayelitsha Priority Court had found them guilty of robbing a retail store of millions of rand, including the Social Security Agency SASSA grants. The incident happened in 2017. The Hawks say the 4 had been charged with 13 counts of robbery with aggravating circumstances. Chinese President Xi Jinping has announced a $50 billion commitment to support his country's plans to contribute to Africa's development. This is part of a 10-point plan to support and strengthen relations with African countries. China has pledged to support Africa's modernization to help the global south to develop. Beijing will open its markets to 33 countries in Africa, including South Africa. The countries will enjoy 0 tariffs on all Chinese products. Addressing the China-Africa Forum through an interpreter, Xi told African leaders that his country would help them to deal with the tariffs issue.
We have decided to give all LDCs having diplomatic relations with China, including 33 countries in Africa, 0 tariff treatment for 100% tariff lines. This has made China the first major developing country and the first major economy to take such a step. It will help turn China's big market into Africa's big opportunity.
And the U.S. Has imposed sanctions on 2 top editors of the Russian state-funded broadcaster RT. It has accused the editors of participating in a Kremlin-backed operation to interfere in the November presidential elections. The BBC's Anthony Zerka.
The allegation was that there were 3 Russian companies making fake profiles on social media that were promoting false narratives, sowing discord, and boosting the Republican nominee. Now, this came out before Donald Trump was Republican nominee. And then there was the allegation about the 2 Russian nationalist RT people who were funneling $10 million to a U.S. company based in Tennessee that employs some conservative commentators. And the allegation was that they were creating online content that would undermine support for Ukraine and, again, sow discord all across the American political spectrum.
The top story this hour, the Human Rights Commission is investigating several cases of alleged murder and assault on the farms in Limpopo. Back to you, SK. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Well, thanks so much, Madupi. Good afternoon, everybody. It is 7 minutes after 12, and just welcome to the show, and good to be with you. So, quite a few stories that we are tracking this afternoon. Some of the court stories, as we always do. The Senzo Meyiwa trial continuing in the High Court in Pretoria. And yesterday, as you heard from Pearl Makubane, the Defence Counsel told the court that the ballistic expert did not follow regular procedure when testing the firearm that was said to be linked to Senzo Meyiwa's murder. So we'll find out from Pearl what the latest is there. Some of the other stories now, the South African Police Service has confirmed that an alleged extortionist and a traditional leader in the Eastern Cape, Dalinzolo Maheke, along with 2 accomplices, were shot and killed during a shootout with police yesterday afternoon. The 3 were shot following an argument allegedly with the police. Now, the Abatembu royal household has actually issued a statement saying that Maheke was not a traditional leader. But all the same, interesting to follow up on what is happening in the Eastern Cape of late. You'll remember earlier in the week we also reported about the school principal who was shot and killed, and this story has just been ongoing. It seems to have gotten out of control, but the police did say that they will be setting up some intervention measures. So we'll find out if there's any change and whether this is actually felt on the ground. So we'll find out there from our reporter, and also maybe check in with the business chamber if there have been any improvements. The Hawks have raided the Thulamela municipality in Thohoyandou. They are investigating alleged corruption there, and we are told that they may have seized electronic devices from some of the municipal managers. Staying in Limpopo, parents and learners organizations as well as COSAS, they protesting outside the Bela Bela Magistrates Court, where a teacher is appearing for alleged sexual assault on one of their learners. Now, the grade 11 learner was allegedly raped during school hours, and the accused is a teacher, and the teacher is expected to apply for bail. So we've got our reporters out watching those stories for us. And then the MEC for Finance